Good morning, team. It is Tuesday, December 8th. I'm Amy Core, and I'm joined by Kevin Van Eck, and we're both live out of the Goose Island office. We have some great information to share with you today, so thank you for joining us. Grab your coffee, your tea, your smoothie, your lemon water, whatever you may have, and let's jump into our latest episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Hi, Amy. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Yes, we've got a great episode today. As Amy said, yesterday we started talking about business planning phase one and specifically the major eight. And so what the major eight are the 8 areas of our lives that we hope to put in balance. Each one of them is so important in each one of us reaching our potential. And oftentimes there's a struggle, there's a push-pull between priorities that we set. But we also know that there are times where we want to change and put things in balance. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, is taking an inventory of where we were, where we are, and where we want to go, talking through the major 8.
So we want to break it down into the 3 areas that we touched on yesterday morning. And that is taking a look back 5 years ago, 2015, where we were at. Then taking a look at present day, where are we right now with the major 8? And then also important, moving forward, where do we want to be 5 years from now in regards to these 8 most important components of our life? So Kevin, let's jump in and talk about 2015. Where were we in relation to the housing market?
Sure. So in 2015, the housing market was actually pretty good. And if you remember back in those years following the downturn, as we went through the recovery, what was interesting is most of those years were very heavily front loaded, meaning we had really, really busy springs that started a little bit early, but then the falls were a little bit slower. What was interesting is in 2015, we actually sold 7% more units than we did in 2014. And that's throughout the entire Chicagoland area. Similarly, pricing, median price went up 8% throughout the Chicagoland area in 2015 from 2014. And that was due to low inventory. So it's a story that we probably remember well: low inventory, front loaded in the year, and then a little bit of a slower in the fall to close out the year. So that was the housing market. I think you have a pulse on the pop culture end of things in 2015.
That's right. There was a lot of good stuff in 2015. If we remember, it was Taylor Swift back on tour for her 1989 tour. I was there with Molly and Isabel. It was also the year that the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup, I believe, for the 2nd year in a row, which was awesome. We actually had our garage, we called it the Garage Bar, and our entire family watched the final game out there. So I remember that very clearly in 2015. It was also the first year of the Apple Watch, in case any of you wear those right now, which there's mine. Kate Middleton had a baby girl, and John Fox was the coach of the Bears, but there wasn't much going on there. I don't think he lasted long. And it was also the year before the Cubs won the World Series. So if those things help to jog your memory a little bit as to what 2015 looked like for you, the idea is to take a look back, reflect, and see where you were in 2015.
And then we want to take a look at where we are currently. And this is probably the easiest out of the 3, between looking back, looking at today, and looking forward. Looking at where we are today, the key here is think about and be real with ourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves and candid with ourselves as to where we are with each one of the major 8 in our current status today. Put it down, write it down. Not much thinking probably needs to go into this because we're living it currently.
All right, so let's talk about where we want to be 5 years from now. And I think it's so important for us to take a look at this and not always think that it has to be exactly in that 5th year. In 2025, all of this stuff, has to be done in that year. But this is a journey. This is a 5-year journey of certain things that you want to try and accomplish and know that you've essentially marked off or ticked off by 2025. And it also doesn't have to be huge things. It can be little goals that you want to set for yourself or longer term things as well. What I think is most important is that we want to lead an intentional life. And the way that we make intention is that we actually take a step back, recognize where we're at today, and we think about where we want to go or where we want to be. And that allows us to evolve. But we've got to go through that thought process, and we've got to throw it out into the universe so the universe has an opportunity to respond. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the idea of, reaching out to people and that phenomenon of before I even get a chance to reach out to the person that I'm thinking of, they're reaching out to us first. That is the universe working in our favor because we've moved forward in our thinking with great intention. So write out those goals. And again, it doesn't need to be anything major. It can be what's so important to you and the things that you want to accomplish in 2021, 22, 23, and so on. So that when you look back in 2025, you see that you've really accomplished a lot that you've intentionally set out to do. So let's get into the major 8. The first one that I want to talk about, and we touched on yesterday, was sort of your physical well-being. And that's really taking a look at how do I feel, both on the health front from, how do I feel physically and, am I working out enough? Am I eating right? Just how do I feel overall? And are there things that I can be doing moving forward that are going to make me feel better so that in that 5-year span, I feel like I've accomplished something and I've been intentional about changing the way I am as of today.
And then we can look at family. So when we look at family, we remember what Amy just said, which is it doesn't need to be something that we're not going to hit until 5 years from now. These can be small or big things that we really, changes we want to make. So some examples of this is that we spend more time with our children. Now, if we've been homeschooling and e-learning and all of that, maybe that's not on our wish list. But in the event it is, or maybe spending more time intentionally with plans with our family. And a lot of times there is this push and pull specifically between family and career. And this is highlighted sometimes on the weekends when we talk about open houses or taking buyers out on showings. We work all weekend when everyone else is really at home. Maybe there is a goal where one weekend out of every month, you spend a day with your family and it's intentionally planned with something to do. So these are just some of the things you might write down in terms of where you want to be in 5 years, some small changes or large changes you want to make in terms of family.
And then we talk about your spiritual well-being. And, as I mentioned yesterday, this can mean something different for everyone. But really, it's kind of your relationship to the universe and what's going on in your world and what is around you. And it's also taking a look at your inner self. Where am I right now in relation to everything in my life, family, work, all of the things that encompass me. And, how do I want to create purpose moving forward? That is a big part of the spiritual element is what purpose am I driving for? Where is it that I want to go and where is it that I want to be? So taking a step back and being able to look at where you are in the universe in relation to everyone and everything, and then being intentional about some of the steps that you may want to take moving forward.
And career. This is probably the easiest one for us to fill out because we're living it, we're in our business every day, but we still need to spend time on the other 7. But the point about the career one is really the decisions we make in our career oftentimes impact the other 7 of the 8. And what that means is, some of the goals we may have in our business are to hire an assistant or to bring on, a virtual assistant, or maybe it is to start a team so we have more support. And that directly impacts the other areas, whether it's spirituality and we have more time to focus on ourselves and who we are in the world, or whether it's our family and spending more time at home or doing those intentional plans we talked about. So in terms of career, these are the career goals where we can set things like adding an assistant, or maybe it's to increase our average price point. Maybe in 5 years, our goal, or at some point between now and 5 years, our goal is to work with, significantly more luxury properties. So as you sit down and you start writing where you want you to be in your career, think about outside of the box, how the career choices or changes you make can impact the other 7 out of the major 8.
And then we've got attitude. And I am a big believer, I tell my girls this all the time, is attitude is everything. Attitude can set the tone for your entire day. Attitude can set the tone of your interaction and how well it goes with others. And I've actually learned this on a personal level. I've got one of my daughters who's a super grump in the morning. And so I've realized that the way in which I approach her in the morning honest to God, it sets the tone for how she operates the rest of the day. And so, think about that in your life, because here's the other thing that's really important. There's only one person that you can control, and that's you. But depending on how you operate and how you present yourself to others, it will gauge or it will impact the way they respond back to you. So think about your attitude. Are you a glass half full or a glass half empty? Are you one that is worried about scarcity in the marketplace or in our business? Or are you looking at it from one of abundance when there's more than enough opportunity for everybody? It is all about your attitude and your mindset. So think about where you were in the past and maybe where you are today. Let's face it, 2020 has been a real challenge when it comes to having a winning mindset and attitude. But now let's take a look at moving forward. What things are you going to do so your attitude shifts and changes so that when you look back and it's 2025, you can see some of the amazing things that you did because you had a great mindset moving forward.
And then financials. So when we talk about financials, this is something that we mentioned yesterday can impact, again, all of the other 7 of the major 8. And so with financials, what's really important is to make sure that this isn't a burden on us. Now, we could talk about financials and we could set our goals and where we want to be in 5 years in terms of income, or we want to have X amount of net worth or whatever it might be. But remember, these can also be small goals and small steps. It doesn't need to be these giant goals. It could be just to get our financial house in order, or if we're ostriching right now, meaning we're just ignoring what's going on in our financial lives and sticking our head in the sand, maybe it's just pulling out and becoming aware of what's there so we can address it. And I know for me personally, there are multiple times in my life where my financial house was not in order. So I can speak personally about what it means and what the weight on our shoulders is like when we're not set, when we're not confident, when we don't have financial security. So in this area, think again, big and small, in terms of where you want to be in the next 5 years and the steps you can take to get there.
Yeah, those are great points, Kevin. And then we're going to talk a little bit about relationships. And this is a big one. This is one that personally I struggle with because I work a ton. And, my whole life growing up, my dad really instilled in all of us just a really strong work ethic. But, let's face it, especially in this business, managing work and then those relationships can really be a challenge, especially in this business for all of you where, a client calls and all of a sudden they want to see a house and it can throw off your whole day or your whole afternoon. So a lot of it is really something that we have to focus on. But it's taking the time to think about those relationships that matter most, and then figuring out how am I going to carve the time out to make sure that it isn't always quantity of time to spend with people, but it's the quality of time. And that's what I've had to learn with, my own family. And one of the things that I started doing is we call it kind of like mommy and me time. I call it Izzy time and I call it Molly time. And it's actually where everybody else is out of the way and it's just myself and Molly one-on-one. And she gets to pick what we do or what we talk about, what our activity is, and it's anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on what we've got. And we kind of carve it out ahead of time, and it's a non-negotiable. And the thing that's so great is it allows me to maybe not have all day long with them, but that 30 minutes to an hour of quality one-on-one time makes such a huge difference in our relationship. So, we're all trying to figure out the perfection of, how to get it right every time, but maybe even just taking small steps and identifying who matters most in your life and how to carve that quality time out moving forward can really be impactful.
And number 8, the last one, knowledge. Yesterday, we talked about knowledge in terms of it being really about real estate, but I want to step back from that. When we talk about knowledge, it really pulls in our curiosity, meaning, what are you learning? What knowledge are you pulling in? It can most certainly be about real estate, but from a holistic view, what are you learning about the environment around us? What are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about those around you? And so knowledge really is all encompassing. And we have this internal curiosity, or maybe we've stifled it, and maybe we haven't given it time. But what we do know is that the more we learn about EQ, the better we can relate to others, including those relationships that Amy was just talking about, including our family, including our clients in our career. And so knowledge is so important. Make sure you take time to continuously learn. For me, I wasn't doing this. And I've always wanted to be that person that was the answer guy. I knew the answer to anything, no matter what the topic was, like the Trivial Pursuit master. And for a period of time, I realized I wasn't taking time to feed my curiosity and learn more other than what I was learning in real estate. And it was a very narrow view. So when you look at knowledge, what do you want to learn about over the next 5 years? Where do you want to be in terms of the experience that you've gained? So take a good look at that. And if you've been stifling it, let's think about how we might be able to open it up to be able to feed that curiosity.
I love that. I feel like that is so important. And the nice thing too is from a knowledge standpoint, when you start going down a road of being curious about other things, you connect with new people. And I think that's what's so exciting and is so important in our business. So all of these the major 8, these are all really important components and areas of your life to consider. And the reason why we want you to take the time this week to take a look at these is because these are life goals. These are things that you want to make sure are in balance, and they're, things that you really need to take inventory of in order to then take the next step of developing a business plan, because these are the things that matter. And once you know what these anchors are and you've identified what they are, where they are now, and where you want to go, it's going to help you then be able to put pen to paper when it comes to crafting a business plan. For example, if you've decided that in your relationships, you're going to make sure that every third Sunday, you're not going to do open houses because you're going to do something special with your family, you've decided in one of your major 8s in that family section that that is a non-negotiable. You're going to be able to then parallel that and bring that over into your business plan. And when you're structuring what your days, weeks, and months look like, you're going to be able to weave in the fact that every third Sunday, you're going to get somebody else to cover an open house because that's family time. So making sure that you know these so that then when we go to your business plan next week, you're in great shape. So what we'd really love for you to do is to take a couple of 30-minute sessions, try and block them out so that you can look at 5 years ago, remember 2015, where you were at, what you were feeling, I think what you felt you were doing in your business and your life, and reflecting on that. Then spending maybe another 15, 20 minutes really reflecting on present day. Where are you right now and how are you feeling? Let's face it, 2020 has been a really interesting year for so many of us. And then let's look ahead towards 2025. When we take a look back and look at everything that we've written down, will we have accomplished everything that we've set out? So let's think about where we want to go, and let's be intentional about the life that we want to live.
That's so great. And here's why. We started the It's All About Love program focusing on love yourself, love others, and love what you do. And typically in years past or in business planning history, in the history of forever, it's always focused on filling out numbers on a sheet and putting out a marketing plan. Our goal this year was to really make it holistic. Our goal was to make it so that we're focusing on the big picture, because no matter what numbers we put onto a business planning sheet, no matter what marketing we say that we're going to implement, if there are areas of the major 8 that aren't in line, we're never going to be able to do it. We'll never be able to reach our goals. So thank you for joining us today. Make sure that you register for the Ninja Accelerator coming up this Thursday. You can register at apppropertiesninja.com. And please, as Amy said, take the time this week to fill out the packet, and we'll see you again on Monday. And remember,
love yourself,
love others,
and love what you do. Make it a great Tuesday and enjoy the rest of the week, you guys.
Bye, everyone.